There we go. Good morning. I'm Mary Winters, and you are watching Visionary Aging. I am a gerontologist and the owner of About Senior Solutions, and we are going to have a fabulous show on seniors and adult substance abuse. Did you know that that is one of the most challenging and biggest issues within the senior arena and aging is prescription drug use, overuse, and alcohol. And those two don't mix very well. So we're going to meet with Peggy Franklin. We're also going to have Steve McCullough on with his caregiver question. And we will also have Melinda Hughes on, and she'll talk a little bit about how the body's affected too, in relation to dehydration and other things that take place when we're drinking a little bit too much. So first, let me go ahead and we'll have Steve go ahead and ask his caregiver question. So here we go. Good morning, Steve. How are you? Oh, you're still muted. I'm not doing very good with these mute buttons. I realize that we get a lot of reverberation if we're not muted when we do some of the videos, and then I come on and I'm very lively looking, but then you can't hear me at all. So you're unmuted.
I hear you fine.
Great. So yeah, what kind of question do you have today?
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hits home too. So my friend is going through this. So the question is, my elderly parent is home and bedridden. They're not eating. They're not able to eat, and they're refusing a feeding tube. So what can we do to make them comfortable?
Well, it sounds like unless there's severe depression and maybe that needs to be dealt with, physically, if they're really more in a terminal position, hospice may be a really appropriate solution. They will come in and provide pain management and comfort care and make sure that their parent is getting the support and they are getting the support. The fabulous thing about hospice that people don't realize is it's extra nursing eyes. They get some extra care in the house. This is all covered under Medicare too. So if this is something truly where someone is really towards end of life, hospice could be really wonderful for that family. They also have social workers and clergy, religious support, and they're just wonderful about supporting that person and making sure the family is taken care of too.
Right. I have a friend who was just going through this, and her parent did not want to be in hospice. He wanted to be at home. So I know that her and her brother were there, and they were just trying to make them comfortable and make that process go as pleasant as possible, I guess.
Yeah, in hospice, you can be anywhere, honestly. So they do come to the house, and that's more often than not where hospice comes or goes. And they will support with all the pain medication. They will confer with the doctor to make sure that things are running smoothly. They also do things in addition when somebody really isn't necessarily. Well, we look at hospice as something really for the last 6 months of somebody's life. I mean, we can't predict that necessarily, but it's, to the extent that we have our magic globe to be able to figure that out. But they also do wonderful things with wound care, and that may be temporary. I also see some people bounce back and recover with getting good care from hospice, and it is covered under insurance. It is such a nice service, and I highly suggest to the family to use something like that.
Excellent.
Yeah, it makes everyone feel a little bit better. So we have Peggy Franklin on today. And
I saw that. I'm excited.
I know. And then Melinda's going to talk a little bit about how our bodies are really affected too with her nutrition and fitness segment too. So maybe we'll go ahead and bring Melinda on, because I know she has a client coming in early this morning. So we'll go ahead and bring Melinda in. So hold on. Okay, we're going to bring Melinda in here as soon as I find her. Here we go. And how are you this morning? I'm going to unmute you so we can hear you.
Oh, good morning.
Unmute. Hi, how are
Yay.
you?
I'm good. How are you doing this morning?
Great. You're in the studio over at the Strength Shop, right, in Pasadena?
Yeah, here we are again, second week in a row that we're in the studio instead of at home.
Sounds great.
Got some people coming in, so.
Good. So we have the fabulous Peggy Franklin coming on. She is the founder of Third Act Substance Solutions. And I thought, what a great question to talk with you about in regards to nutrition and how that changes our bodies, and share a little bit about your thoughts on that too.
Well, really, there's every human being has two ages. We have our chronological age and we have our physiological age, which is the age of our body. There's pretty much three markers that the medical community or scientists look at to determine how our body ages, and those are the telomere length, which I'll get to in a minute, DNA methylation, and blood markers like blood pressure, glucose levels, and fasting glucose levels. The telomere length, telomeres are basically they protect our chromosomes. So as we live, our cells continuously divide. That's how our cells replicate. And each time the cells divide, our chromosomes suffer a little bit of damage, and that's how aging occurs. So the telomeres protect the chromosomes from damage as our cells divide. So the longer, and in studies, the longer your telomeres are, the younger your body is. And one of the fascinating things, and the telomeres this also protects your DNA from being damaged. So one of the interesting things about this is that when you're very young and when you become older, when you're a senior, your telomeres and your DNA can be affected at a much faster rate. So it kind of like it goes much more quickly when we're children, and then when we get into middle age, it slows down the rate at which our telomeres shorten and our DNA and our chromosomes can be damaged, and then it speeds up again as we become seniors. And one of the things that speeds it up or accelerates it is binge drinking. So that they define that in the studies as more than 7 drinks in a sitting. So they haven't found anything conclusive about moderate alcohol intake one way or another on how it ages the body. But certainly binge drinking, and if somebody's really struggling with addiction, there's several reasons addictions form later in life, as I'm sure Peggy will be discussing with us. They may be drinking that much. So that's really going to accelerate the aging of their body, and the aging of our body is what determines the onset of chronic disease and illness and eventually mortality. So it is something, binge drinking specifically is something to really be careful of as we get older.
Absolutely. Yeah, and all the medication we may need to take too.
Yes.
Changes as well. And it's interesting because when you talk about the telomeres and your DNA being changed, we also talk a lot about environment versus hereditary or genetics. And we're changing our genetics then and forcing the environment to take over and control poor results in aging, which is very interesting too.
One of the fastest growing fields is epigenetics, and epigenetics is how our personal choices, whether they're nutritional or lifestyle choices, and the lifestyle choices can be like stress and sleep and certainly substance abuse or even substance use, how that can affect how our genetics are expressed. So the choices that we make can turn on or off the genes and determine whether those genes result in there's a company called Nutrition Genome, and they will take a cheek swab and they'll tell you what your genes are. And what's great about the company is they break down based on what your genes are. They break down what would be the best things to eat or not eat. My grandfather passed away from colon cancer in his 60s, like very young. And so when I did the nutrition genome, the gene for colon cancer is in my heredity, and came up on the test. And one of the things that the test said, in order to not have this gene express, you need to stay away from meat and processed meat products in particular. And my grandfather worked in a meat processing plant.
Oh my God.
So you can see how, what we're learning now in the study of epigenetics and how our genes are expressed and how our choices control how our genes are expressed and our choices control the aging of our body. We can see how maybe that affected our ancestors.
Oh, really absolutely. What a great segment. What great information. Really love it. Thank you so much, Melinda. I appreciate it. And we'll let you go because welcome. We know that somebody's in there trying to make sure they change their personal environment to their body and making sure that they're healthy. And we'll let you get to them. But have a great weekend. And thank you so much. Great information.
Thank you. I'm eager to watch the replay and see what Peggy has to say. It's going to be really interesting. So.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Have a great weekend.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks. I think that was really good information. I also want to celebrate our centenarians. I think I said that right. Centenarians. We'll go ahead and celebrate. I want to also bring back Mr. Rice because I have an update on him. He is an incredible fella who he wound up actually jumping out of that plane last weekend on Sunday. And let me go ahead and just feature him a little bit. And then we'll talk a little bit about another woman who's just turned 100. He was celebrated by jumping out of this plane. And I don't know if you remember the story from last month, and we kind of got cut off a little bit too. But he was a paratrooper and jumped out of a plane on D-Day as a paratrooper. And he wanted to, as a 100-year-old man, jump out of a plane again and celebrate what he did 100 years earlier. He is a resident of Coronado Island, so he jumped over the Hotel Del, and hundreds of people flocked by to see how he was doing. And he had tons of military members were watching. And Tom said, or Mr. Rice, it's unbelievable what you can view from up there. We did a lot of maneuvering, and it was a ton of fun. He was an airborne paratrooper who was greeted with cheers, cake, a new watch to replace the one he lost while on the D-Day mission. So I hope you have, and he wants to do this for his 101st, which I would love to be able to attend. So Mr. Rice, happy birthday to you. And talking about environment and working out, he said he has a very, very rigorous workout regimen still. So congratulations. And you are truly a mentor to all of us. Next, I want to share a little bit about another beautiful lady who turned 100, and her sister is sitting next to her, her baby sister. So Hattie Mae is on the left with her little green hat, and her sister, Alma, is on the other side of her, and she's 95. So these ladies really know how to age well and are incredibly beautiful. There were about 50 people who gathered to celebrate several women at a Tipton County luncheon and at the museum there. And it also holds the Veteran Memorial and the Nature Center in Covington. And this wonderful luncheon has been taking place since 2017, and it's known as the Hattie T. Yarborough Women's Appreciation Lunch, and is sponsored by the Association for the Preservation of African American History and Culture in Tipton County. This week, they went ahead and honored Hattie Mae for her 100th birthday. And they had the Episcopal Church Bishop, Henry Williamson Sr., attended, and he recognized her and said, "I'm here to salute one of the most awesome women in American history." And he said that she is a treasure here, and she is a wow woman. I think of this great lady, a woman of the word, a woman of wisdom, and a woman of great works. WOW. So incredible. She's also honored by the 112th Speaker of the Tennessee House of Representatives, Cameron Sexton. And he says, "Happy birthday, and it's an honor for me to bring this proclamation from Tennessee. It is fitting that we should pay tribute to those citizens who are celebrating special occasions and estimable lives. As Hattie Yarborough enters her 11th decade of life, she is still an active and productive member of society who is admired for her wisdom, guidance, and generosity. We wish to grasp this golden opportunity to recognize one of Tennessee's most outstanding citizens on this very special occasion." And everybody just got up and applauded her and had so many wonderful things to say about her. Apparently she was a former teacher and librarian, a community educator, and she has spent her entire life preserving African American history. Hattie Mae Thomas Yarborough, happy birthday to you. Thank you so much for your generosity and what you've done for the community and making a difference. We really appreciate you. And next, we have our special guest, Peggy Franklin, coming on with us. And I want to mention a little bit about Peggy. I've known Peggy for a long time, and I was really, really impressed with the concept and the work that she's doing as the founder of Third Act Substance Solutions. She's had a long time experience in the senior living industry, including key leadership, marketing, and sales positions with Transamerica Senior Living and California Lutheran Homes. Throughout her career, she's developed strategic marketing and business growth plans with the goal of providing superior senior housing. Known for developing Bridgepoint, the first assisted living community in Beverly Hills, Peggy is an adjunct professor in the Graduate School of Gerontology at the University of Laverne Business Management School. She has served as a chair of the board of Women in Recovery and is a member of several senior living associations. Peggy founded Third Act Substance Solutions to help build living communities that welcome, embrace, and attract older adults either in recovery or seeking recovery. Please welcome my friend, and actually she was also one of my professors in graduate school, Peggy Franklin. And she'll join us here in just a second. Go ahead and hide Tom too. Hi, good morning.
Hi,
Peggy.
Mary. Thank you so much. What a great
Absolutely.
introduction. Wow.
Oh, absolutely. So tell us a little bit more about not just the concept, what is Third Act doing, providing for seniors too?
Well, I will certainly do that. But first, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you for inviting me about this subject. It's always good to work with you and wherever we're working on, but I was particularly happy that you wanted to take a look at this issue because it's really a health problem, a growing health problem in our country.
Yes.
Alcohol and particularly prescription drug overuse, misuse. And we really don't know enough about the issue, how to acknowledge it, how to understand, and how to help people with the problem. So I applaud you for bringing it to the forefront. Third Act is something that I founded because I saw the problem growing, particularly working in senior industry. And our mission is to increase success for older adults who have some substance misuse issues. And that happens through innovative programming that help those people who are dealing with issues, begin to regain vitality and health and to live a senior lifestyle that's full of energy and happiness.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I thought it was wonderful listening to Melinda, because some of the things that she's talking about are, what we recommend. And we're working with senior housing groups. I'm going to talk about that a little bit, about how we work with Covia in some of their communities.
Wonderful.
But let me talk for a few seconds about some of the reasons why people may start to begin to have substance abuse problems as they age. And, we find that they're really about age-related issues. Maybe obvious to some people, physical pain. So yes, we are dealing with issues that just come with aging, example, arthritis. And so we maybe begin to take more prescription drugs than we should. And then we combine it maybe with, a little cocktail. And then as our bodies are aging, we find that's really not a good thing to do. And I should also very importantly say that the program is not about just saying no to alcohol or to, changing a lifestyle completely. It's about learning how to manage a lifestyle as we get older, if perhaps alcohol is becoming somewhat of an issue. So
Excellent.
whereas in the past, maybe there was no problem having 2 or 3 glasses of wine or more, or a couple of martinis. But now we find as we're aging that, only 1 glass is good for me. And maybe not when I'm taking my arthritis medication.
Or no
So
go,
it's about education, it's about prevention, and on a spectrum of learning. So what we have started to do is work with retirement community or senior housing communities, et cetera, other providers. And I should say too, we started the program before we were all dealing with Covia, with COVID.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm smiling because the community that was our first project, the first partner that we have is Covia, Covia. So it's sort of
Wonderful.
ironic, I think.
No, and they're very innovative with their programming too.
Yes,
I
they
have to
are.
say they're wonderful.
They are, and I have to acknowledge the fact that they really, when I approached them, I've known them for many, many years and the innovative programs they do, and I said to them, this is what I'm looking at now, and they said, we need to look at this too. We need to look at this issue and pay attention. So we did that prior to COVID entering our lives, and so in working with them, as I'm sure with some other communities and, seniors, older adults across the country, we are seeing now that because of COVID,
Sure.
there are a lot more issues, people isolated, people alone during this past couple of years. So again, it's an ongoing focus for our attention for Third Act, and I think for everyone working with an older population. So that's my hope, that everybody will pay attention to this issue. But I'll just take a few minutes and explain what we did with Covia.
Sure.
They have 5 communities in Northern California. And so we went in and we spoke with each community, and we did community mapping and a needs assessment report at each community. And in each community, we met with the executive directors or the managers. We met with social workers, chaplains, dietary, dining room staff, life enrichment counselors, admissions people, and resident council members. We had lunch with residents. So we did a really thorough understanding of each community. And then we accumulated, all of the results, and we came up with some key findings. And one of those key findings was that in all of the populations, a highly educated and engaged community resident base. So people were interested in the topic. They knew in some cases that there were issues to deal with, not necessarily problems, but just issues and awareness that should be there. Another key finding, unfortunately, was that there is stigma around substance misuse and recovery present in all the communities. And that's why I'm very grateful again that you are willing to bring this subject through
So
senior
important.
solutions to the forefront.
I think it's so kind of easy for these changes to take place too. We have so much loss as we age, and sometimes we can be comforted by things, and it becomes a pattern, and we don't realize that it's getting out from under us. So I think it's very important to take a look at. And somebody who never had a substance abuse issue prior can be really affected as they age. So
Exactly. I mentioned before physical issues like, pain, arthritis, pain,
yes,
etc. But some of the other things that occur occur in our, happen in our later life that we maybe initially think are happiness issues like retirement.
right,
And we look forward to that. And yet it's like, oh, how am I going to fill my days if we
right,
haven't prepared? Or there's that huge loss from not having a job, a career, a place to go.
right.
And we find that people are filling that in, with substance misuse. The loss of a spouse, some things that naturally happen in life and that sometimes we have no control over. And those sort of aging issues will introduce a substance misuse issue later in life. And people will say, well, we never had a problem misusing alcohol.
I know.
So how is this happening to me? And it's really important to say it's not a stigma. It's a disease. So this is where the education comes in as well. It's a disease. It's not a detriment. It's not, something that should be a negative in somebody's life. It's just something to deal with, just like we deal with arthritis, just like we deal with other issues, high blood pressure.
Right.
And it's very manageable,
That's the
just like
great
the other
thing.
diseases.
Yeah,
we
that is
talked
the
about.
great thing.
So
Yeah.
that's, what gives me excitement and to say, no, we should not look at this as a stigma. And interesting, coupled with that, another finding we found was that the scope and the scale in each one of the communities was very different because people were like, well, no, we don't have any problems here. And then as we talked to a few other people, well, maybe there's one person, my neighbor down the hall who maybe, so again, that unwillingness to bring this to the forefront and say, it's very acceptable
It
to
is.
say, this is something we can work with and then say, we're here to make sure that this part of your life is just as enjoyable as the previous years of your life too.
Right. And I see seniors who don't drink at all. So they think there's no problem. I'm taking 22 medications. There's polypharmacy effects with that. Maybe very dependent on certain things and almost have that desire to make sure that they have that pill to take care of whatever. And maybe the efficacy of that medication has changed over the years too, but we're piling over piling over piling. I had someone not too long ago who was so dizzy, and I thought, I know some of this has to be related to some of her medication, but we went to the inner ear doctor, we went to this doctor, that doctor, all over the place. And finally, I had a geriatrician sit down and look at the most important medications that she was taking, and it was down to 6. And she eventually went up to about 10. But boy, oh boy, when you start piling all those medications up on top of each other, it just has such a horrible effect on your body and pain medication, especially too. I'm seeing some really horrific side effects and interactions that people are having with their spouse and children, adult children. Really challenging, and something in addition to alcohol, some of the heavy opioids and narcotics that our seniors are on for pain. It's so challenging. So I really applaud what you're doing. It's absolutely amazing the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. And you're right. It's really sometimes people don't drink at all, have any alcohol in their lives for many reasons, but the pills and the over the counter, not over the counter, but prescription drug pills, and all the interactions. And in your work, you see that, as you just pointed out, so much. So that's a huge issue for us to deal with. So seeing that, and working with the medical community, working with what you do, geriatric assessments and advisement and management, we have the opportunity then to put into effect some of what are we going to do to manage this, and what we suggested for the COVID communities after our findings was that we look at, as I mentioned before, a spectrum, starting with prevention, education, well-being. And at the very far end is possibly, some kind of intervention and recovery. It's really at the far end. So it's so important for me to get the message out that there's a lot of things that can be done on what I call the front end of the spectrum.
Nice.
And that's, comprehensive data-driven education, peer discussions, working with, people who have life experiences with their families, with other seniors. Staff programming. There was real hunger in the retirement community situations for people to be trained. Staff was really, how do we help our residents?
Sure. Many people have never been faced with that. They've
Absolutely.
never been faced with that in their family, or peripherally, maybe watching, colleagues or students in school, but many people have never dealt with that. So that's wonderful that you're able to educate the team members that embrace the seniors.
And that's where we would start, with team education, staff education, and then that, helps them to be empowered.
Absolutely.
To help them work with the residents of the community. So I think that, I know that there's tremendous opportunity for Third Act, but to work as part of, helping our older adults really have a fulfilling and vital life, even dealing with some of the issues they may be dealing with now relative to substance misuse.
Is this something you think senior centers could use too?
Yes, absolutely. I've approached the housing communities because that's my background. I've worked for so long in housing, and I thought, this is something that is a good base to start with. But certainly, I see other arenas that that are very appropriate for education. So as we move along, yes.
That's great. Peggy, how do people get a hold of you? We have a little scroll on the bottom, but if
We do,
just listening,
there's a website, Third Act, substancesolutions.com. And if you go there, you'll also see contact information. You'll see a real explanation of our services. And I should also say, Mary, that this is not like a package. It's like, okay, here you go. This is it. We work with each community or each senior center or whoever, and we say, what's appropriate for your community or for your service to seniors to give the best approach to this solution. So it's not just like, here you go, and we will be there to work with people too. So again, the idea of, building what you need to address this issue. So I think the best place is the website. My phone number is there. Anyone can call me. Happy to talk to you and see what we can do best to provide another dimension of care for older adults in our population.
And quality of life. Let's get our life
quality
back,
of life,
right?
Yeah, vitality, energy, till whenever.
Yeah. We want to have it as long as we can, for sure.
Absolutely.
We don't want to have anything strip us from that. So thank you so much, Peggy.
Thank you,
And
Mary.
I hope you do reach out if you're a community or part of a senior center or an individual who'd like to make a difference. Please reach out to Peggy and Third Act. All right. You have a great weekend now.
You too. Thanks again.
Thanks. I love that program, and I think Peggy's doing a fantastic job in the community supporting us with our needs there. I thought it was so unique when she originally talked about what she was forming, and I'm so glad that she came on to share that, because it's so unique and so needed. So in any event, let's bring Steve back and see what he has to think about all of this great information. Isn't that fantastic?
Hello.
You wouldn't necessarily know how prevalent alcohol and prescription drug abuse is in senior communities,
Right.
but
And
definitely.
I was thinking about, she mentioned how, some people don't have prior history of having.
They
something.
don't. It's
And
really
how
true.
scary is that to, in that later stage of your life, to have to struggle with that as well.
Right.
So crazy.
But the help is out there, which is so great. And I love that she is educating our communities, and we can get the word out. I think it's just really important because it's fixable. That's the thing. If we can fix it, we want to make it. We want to make a change. So
so many good resources.
Absolutely. Anything important or exciting that you're doing for the weekend?
Well, nothing too exciting, but I wanted to mention, because we talked about this before, today is National Radio Day.
Oh, okay.
And it's also National Chocolate Pecan Pie Day.
Well, not just regular pecan pie, but chocolate pecan pie day.
Exactly. So I encourage everybody to go out and get a nice slice of chocolate pecan pie, and turn the radio on and
there you go. Combine the two. I might just dip my pecan in a little bit of chocolate. How's that, instead of the whole pie?
I think that'll work too.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right, my friend. Have a great weekend, and we will see you next week.
Sounds good. Great show. Take care.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.